7 Sinister Vacation Horror Stories Exposed, Terrifying Encounters from Haunted Destinations Abroad. Melanie had read the chilling tales, but nothing could prepare her for the terror awaiting in the Smoky Mountains. Sandwiched between lush greenery and the ominous rustle of branches, the quaint cabin she rented was a beacon of hope, a desperate escape from her chaotic life. As a single mother in her late 30s, she yearned to forge joyful moments with her 2 teenage daughters, to wipe away the scars left by their recent divorce. The thrill in the car was palpable. They arrived, sighing in relief, filled with a potent mix of excitement and nervous energy, but as the sun dipped beneath the horizon, an unsettling chill crept through the air. Melanie's heart raced. Shadows danced at the edge of the forest, teasing her with whispers carried by the wind. She shuddered, brushing off the unease, but it clung to her like mist. Once darkness settled, the cabin transformed. Unseen forces shivered against the aging wood, sending her into a spiral of dread. She heard a faint and eerie chorus of voices, a sound that wrapped around her like cold fingers. Each whisper seemed to taunt her, raising doubts about her choices, the path that led her to this moment. Outside, laughter rang out. Her daughters were oblivious, reveling in freedom. But Melanie was trapped in a haunting grip of anxiety, her breaths coming fast and shallow. The next morning, her fears weighed heavier than the remnants of yesterday's fun. Seeking answers, she approached the rental agency, only to be met with dismissive grins that mirrored her rising panic. "It's the mountain air, ma'am." They laughed. Instead of comfort, their nonchalance spiraled her worries, feeding her internal demons. Could she truly protect her daughters? Did she make a terrible mistake? As night fell again, silence thickened, and she felt as if the cabin itself was watching. When her daughters set off to explore, curiosity danced in her heart, battling the tension of her tightening chest. Alone, Melanie fished around under the floorboards and unearthed an ancient, dust-covered photo album. Heart pounding, she flipped through it, a growing sense of horror blooming in her gut as she noticed smiling faces, their joy stark against the ominous backdrop of the woods. But there was something off, something lurking behind their smiles. They were gone now, swallowed by the darkness. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue the locals' whispered tales of the land's dark history, tales that made her skin crawl. The cabin wasn't just a place to unwind, it bore the weight of something ancient and twisted. They talked about disappearances, about how the forest feasted on joy and left only echoes behind. Panic clawed inside her, but her daughters were blissfully oblivious. That night, as she stumbled through darkened hallways, the air thick with dread, an icy gust roared past her, bringing with it the scent of lost innocence. She chased the dying echoes of her daughter's laughter, her heart pounding against her ribs. The shadows blurred and shifted, reality bending around her as she tumbled down a corridor that seemed to stretch endlessly. What hunts in this darkness? Who can she trust? As the chilling truth began to surface, one face from the album felt hauntingly familiar. Time slipped away as the gnawing realization dawned. Was the real predator closer than she'd ever imagined? The clock ticked down as she fought against despair, but would she uncover the sinister truth before it consumed all of them? The wind howled outside, rattling the windows and sending fresh chills down Melanie's spine. Her daughters were still out there in the forest, the laughter fading as the encroaching shadows stretched their limbs like greedy fingers. Time felt elastic, stretching and contracting as she fought to hold on to sanity. In a panic, she turned back to the old album, flipping the pages like a frenzied search for answers. Each turn revealed faces that smiled so brightly, yet their eyes told another story, hollow, vacant. As she ran her fingers over the sepia-toned memories, something caught her eye. One particular figure, a girl no older than her eldest, stood in nearly every photograph, a shadow just behind the others, a spectral presence. The realization washed over her. The girl was wearing the same outfit her daughter had on, the faded flannel and denim shorts, like a cruel echo of the past. Heart racing, she slammed the album shut and paced the cabin, trying to summon her daughters back with her thoughts. "They'll be fine," she murmured, though her voice trembled. The oppressive air in the cabin was thick with foreboding. The walls felt alive, murmuring, taunting as she paced. Did they know? Did the shadows know what lay beyond the door? Another gust rattled the door, and Melanie tiptoed toward it, feeling its pulsing energy. With each step, dread grew heavier. What if her daughters were in danger? With a surge of courage, she flung the door open. The forest loomed ahead, the treacherous path illuminated only by the sliver of moonlight. "Georgia! Lily!" She shouted, her cries swallowed by the darkness, the cold grasping at her throat. A rustle among the trees sent her heart racing, instinct screaming to run back inside, but she pushed against it. She could hear them now, faint giggles echoing back, but they were not just her daughter's voices. Another voice mixed in a lilting, haunting laugh that chilled her blood. It called out to her lost girls, beckoning them deeper into the trees, deeper into that relentless darkness. The shadows swayed, dancing to an eerie rhythm, the forest alive with an unsettling energy. Melanie staggered into the woods, the ground shifting beneath her feet. Anxiety pulled at her like quicksand. Each footfall echoed with uncertainty. "Girls!" She cried out, desperation clawing at her throat. Was the forest truly consuming them? Or was it just playing tricks on her mind? Then, off to her right, a glimmer caught her eye, moonlit hair entwined with branches. She rushed forward, heart pounding. "Georgia!" It was her daughter, but the moment Melanie reached her, fear twisted into horror. The expression on Georgia's face was blank, drifting, as if she were the one lost in a trance. As Melanie grasped her arm, a chill shot through her, and the ground beneath them whispered an ominous warning. "Mom! We were just playing," Georgia said, her voice hollow, almost robotic. "Playing?" Melanie's mind raced. Playing with what? Before her daughter could answer, the forest whispered again, a voice both seductive and threatening. "Join us, the others are waiting." Suddenly, a second figure emerged from the trees. A tall silhouette, cloaked in shadow, movements languid and smooth. It locked eyes with Melanie, their depths were fathomless, infinite, hungry. "Let them go," she stammered, instinct urging her to retreat, but adrenaline pushed her forward instead. "What do you want?" The shape smiled, but there was no warmth, only more darkness. "Just a little joy before the night consumes you all." Melanie felt her throat tighten as she took a step back, pulling Georgia to her. The shadows whispered louder now, swirling around her like a tempest, and she clung to her daughter, heart racing. "Run!" she screamed, adrenaline surging as the wicked laughter echoed behind them, carving into her resolve. What had she stumbled into? With each fleeting moment, the forest darkened deeper. They had to escape. But the path behind them twisted, paths shifting, as if the forest itself was alive, controlling her every move. Would they ever make it back before the trees swallowed them whole? As they raced against an unseen force, a horrifying realization dawned. What if the true enemy was not just out there, but within? The trees closed in on them, gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal hands. Melanie's heart raced faster than her feet could carry her. "Mom, wait!" Georgia's voice called behind her, sounding so distant. Panic flooded Melanie's mind. She turned around, just in time to see Georgia standing eerily still, her gaze locked on the shadows swirling around them. "Georgia, come on!" Melanie shouted, running back. She grasped her daughter's shoulders, shaking her gently, desperation clawing at her inside. "We need to move." But Georgia only smiled, that hollow smile that could chill the blood in anyone's veins. "But Mom, we're having fun. The others want to play." "The others? What do you mean?" she whispered, dread crawling up her spine. Before Georgia could answer, the tall figure stepped closer, the moonlight revealing sharp, angular features, and an unsettling grin that stretched too wide. "Why not let her stay?" It hissed softly, like a silk thread pulling taut. Melanie's breath quickened, and she felt her reality slipping. Fear turned to rage, and she yelled, "No! I want to leave my daughter. Why fight what she desires?" The figure crooned, tilting its head just slightly, shadows dancing across its face. "This place offers a joy that the world outside cannot comprehend. The laughter, the freedom, the fun." The laughter echoed again, now with sinister glee, seeming to come from the very trees themselves. Melanie could feel the forest closing in, the ground shifting like a serpent, coiling around her feet. "No. Georgia, listen to me. We have to go now," she pleaded, shaking her daughter harder. With a flicker of awareness, the light returned to her daughter's eyes. Fear replaced the vacant stare. "Mom." She seemed to struggle against whatever held her in its thrall. I can't, we can't," the forest howled, and a sudden breeze swept through, carrying whispers of forgotten secrets and lost souls. Shadows danced threateningly at the edges of her vision. "Run, Melanie!" Georgia screamed, breaking free from her mother's grasp. "Go! Find Lily!" "Georgia, no!" But her daughter turned back toward the darkness, the grip of the forest pulling at her like a lover's embrace. Melanie felt her heartbeat echo in her ears, drowning out the laughter, the command, the plea of her daughter merging with the cacophony of the trees. She turned and ran. Her legs were fueled by fear alone. Shadows reached and clawed at her, threatening to pull her into the suffocating void. Each step felt monumental, but she couldn't stop. Lily could still be out there. The sound of branches cracking above her, the air thickened with an unnatural chill. With each breath, the scent of decay crept deeper into her lungs, forming a chokehold around her heart. "Lily!" she called, desperation spilling into the air, a prayer against the night. "Please! Answer me!" Silence answered. Then, off to her left, she heard a faint giggle. It was discreet, gentle, as if the night itself playfully toyed with her sanity. Pulsing hope collided with dread. She raced toward the sound, sticking to the narrow path that twisted precariously. The shadows darted alongside her, whispering seductive promises, luring her to join Georgia, to leave the fear behind and embrace the unknown joy. "Mommy!" The laugh, that unmistakable voice, cut through the thick fog of foreboding. Was it really Lily? Melanie froze, her heart thumping wildly. The trees parted slightly, revealing a small clearing bathed in moonlight. There, standing just at the edge, was Lily, her hair shimmering like starlit silk, her smile bright yet unnerving. "What are you doing, sweetheart? Come to me!" Melanie shouted, reaching for her, but as Melanie took a step forward, something shifted in the shadows. From the darkness, many figures emerged, each wearing a grin too wide for the slice of moonlight cutting through the treetops. "Join us, Melanie," they chorused, their voices merging into one, a terrifying song mesmerizing and haunting. "We are all waiting for you," the forest rumbled, the ground trembling beneath her. The very air thickened, turning suffocating. Melanie turned, searching for an escape, but saw only shadowy figures beckoning her. Each face bore a resemblance to those in the old album, eyes gleaming with a knowing glow. Would she be a part of this terrifying new world? As anguish twisted her gut, she felt a pull, a urge to turn back toward the clearing, to abandon the fear of the unknown for the seduction of power and belonging. And deep down, a sinister voice echoed louder. Stay with us forever. Would she resist the call of the forest or surrender her will to the laughter that haunted the night? Melanie stumbled backwards, an instinctive panic igniting her every nerve. The figures in the clearing were impossibly familiar, each face carved into her memory long ago, friends she hadn't thought of in years, now twisted into something ugly. They moved closer, their smiles stretching in a grotesque parody of warmth. "Lily!" she cried, desperation flooding her voice. The figure of her daughter stood idle, just out of reach, that haunting smile painting her face. "Mommy, it's okay. They're nice." Lily's voice rang out, tinkling with innocence, yet underlined with a chilling sharpness that sent shards of ice down Melanie's spine. "No. No. They're not nice. You have to come to me." The figures laughed softly, a symphony of malice that echoed off the trees. Their laughter wrapped around her, pressing in, suffocating her with its joyless glee. "Your daughter just wants to play. Don't you remember how good it felt?" A shadowy figure whispered, its voice smooth like oil. "The laughter, the happiness, it's all within reach." Melanie felt the ground shift again, a sense of being rooted, tethered to the earth beneath her. Every heartbeat reverberated in her ears as she fought against the overwhelming urge to give in, to surrender to the delight the creatures promised. "Join us, be a part of our family," they beckoned, extending their arms wide, the darkness swirling around them, inviting but foreboding. "There is no pain, only joy. Isn't that what you want?" Her breath quickened. Melody's words spiraled through her head. How could they know? How could they? She felt her body betraying her, the innate fear huddling in her chest clashing with a sudden warmth spreading from her fingertips. It felt inviting, washing over her like a wave. "Mom, please." Lily's voice broke through the haze. "Come here." Melanie's heart raced. "No. Don't you understand? You're not the one talking. You're trapped." She pointed at the shadowy figures, each one inching closer, their eyes narrowing, gleaming with an unnatural hunger, with a strength she didn't know she possessed. Melanie turned on her heel and bolted, sprinting back into the darkness. The laughter followed, menacing and relentless, bouncing off the trees and wrapping around her like chains. The shadows lunged, reaching through the branches, clawing at her hair, her clothes, as if the very forest wanted to hold her tight. She felt a weight settle in her chest. The darkness was trying to pull her in to make her one of them. But deep down, the love for Lily propelled her forward. She pushed through the branches, blood pounding in her ears, desperate to find the path, to escape the magnetic pull of the sinister joy behind her. "Lily! Where are you?" Each cry echoed into nothingness, swallowed by the sinister forest that consumed all sound. Then, a flicker of light appeared up ahead. Not a warm glow, but a harsh, unyielding light that pierced through the darkness. Hope surged within her. Could it be? As she dashed toward the illumination, the shadows shrieked, a haunting cacophony, a blend of fury and despair. "You cannot escape. This is your home now." Melanie skidded to a stop in front of a clearing, the source of the light becoming painfully clear. It was the twisted tree trunk, surrounded by writhing shadows that pulsed rhythmically, like a heart beating. "Mom!" She turned, and before her stood Georgia once more, her expression altered, active and alive, just like Lily's. The girls, together, radiated a different energy, something sacred yet horrifying. "Join us," they said together, their voices harmonizing into a sinister lullaby that compelled her soul to listen. The forest swayed, the trees groaning under the weight of a fresh surge of dark energy. Melanie felt fear clawing back, but an insistent whisper pressed against her mind. Was this truly a nightmare, or a chance to grasp the joy promised? The trees inhaled, exhaling an unholy chill that raked across her skin. "Will you choose the forest, or your children?" All around her, the air thickened, vibrating with a tension that felt suffocating. Could she fight, or was it too late to claim her daughters back? As the shadows encroached, Melanie's heart hammered violently in her chest. In the distance, laughter rang out again, echoing, deceptive, intoxicating. Where would her choice lead her? She glanced at the flickering light and the shadows beckoning from behind. Which path would she choose? The air crackled with tension as Melanie stood frozen, heart hammering in her chest, torn between the paradox of love and the dread hanging around her like a shroud. The twisted tree loomed before her, its gnarled roots writhing, as if alive. The laughter that had once echoed with the sweet promise of childhood now felt like a death knell. "Mom, please!" Lily cried, her voice a fragile thread of desperation wrapping around Melanie's heart. "They're waiting." "Waiting for what?" Melanie shouted, desperation clawing at her words. "Waiting to take you from me." Silence fell heavy, the shadows still looming with sinister patience, each figure now incomprehensibly transformed into vague silhouettes of her past. Melanie could almost feel the weight of their collective disappointment and hunger pressing on her. "That's not true," Georgia chimed in, offering a smile that was haunting rather than reassuring. "We just want to be together. Forever." Melanie shook her head, the clutches of fear tightening around her like a vice. "Together? You're not my girls anymore. You can't be." Her gut twisted, nausea bubbling up as she took an involuntary step back. But the shadows simply merged, forming a wall that surrounded her, cutting off any retreat. "Don't you see?" one shadow breathed, its voice chilling yet strangely familiar. "We can be happy here. No more pain. Just joy with us." The forest responded, branches reaching toward her with needle-like fingers, rustling ominously, as if in agreement. The cries of her long-lost friends floated through her mind, a ghostly echo warning her of danger she refused to accept. This was wrong. "Mommy." Lily's voice now sliced through her resolve, penetrating deeper than all the darkness. It shifted, becoming desperate, the innocence replaced by a shrill urgency. "Please, help me. I love you. Your love won't save you from this place." Melanie yelled back, knowing the terrible truth. Her daughter was a prisoner in this web of horror, as much as she was. Tears streamed down her face, mixing with the chill of the in a surge of instinct. She lunged toward the flickering light, clinging to it as if it were the sun breaking through the darkest night. She could almost feel the warmth radiating against her skin, but the shadows hissed, drawing closer, reaching for her with longing arms. "Don't leave us." Georgia chorused, her voice echoing eerily, melding with the others, sounding more like a chant than an appeal. "We need you here. Be part of our world." In that heartbeat, everything shifted. Melanie's resolve flickered like the light before her. Would she truly abandon her daughters for a chance to escape? Or would she embrace the sinister joy that twisted her girls into something unrecognizable? The figures around her began to swirl, their voices rising into an intoxicating crescendo, drowning out her thoughts. Each whisper fanned the flames of despair, urging her to step forward, to say yes. "Join us. Join your family." They cried, the shadows brightening as if to emphasize their insidious invitation. Melanie felt a crack of panic, the truth of her love clashed against the growing fear of the unknown. She had to decide, and the choice loomed as heavy as the forest itself. Just then, a low growl erupted from the depths of the trees, a guttural sound tearing through the laughter. The shadows recoiled slightly, their confidence wavering for the first time. "Now you have a chance," a voice echoed, something dark yet ancient stirring within the chaos. With every ounce of her strength, Melanie turned towards the light, heart ensnared by both love and terror. "What do I have to do?" But before the answer could form, the shadows swept toward her, merging with the thundering heart of the forest. "Choose." They screamed, an army of voices melded into one haunting shout. The ground trembled beneath her, a crack opened wide, ominous in the flickering glow. She was being drawn in two directions, life and shadow, joy and an unspeakable fate. Desperation clawed at her insides. This wasn't just about her daughters anymore, this was about survival. And somewhere, lurking in the suffocating haze was the truth that could set her free. As the crack widened, she hesitated, and time seemed to freeze. The shadows howled in protest, but the light pulsed harder, beckoning with urgency. "What happens if I refuse?" She gasped, her voice barely a whisper. The shadows paused, anticipation heavy in the air. "You already know." In that moment, everything blurred, the laughter, the light, the shadows, and Melanie's pulse quickened. What would she choose? Would she fight a world that swallowed everything she loved, or would she embrace the darkness, giving in to the call that promised eternal unity? A single step would change everything. Which path would crush her spirit first? The growl reverberated through the clearing, deep and feral. It cut through the cacophony of whispers, bringing a momentary hush. The shadows curled backward, sensing something they couldn't confront. A rush of wind swept through the trees, scattering leaves like forgotten memories. Melanie's heart raced, pounding against her ribs as she fought to comprehend the presence lurking in the darkness. The tangle of shadows wavered, hesitation rippling through their unearthly forms. A flicker of caution hung in the air, thick and palpable. She took a step back, refusing to yield to the shadows that pressed closer with a desperate urgency. "What was that?" she breathed, her voice barely above a whisper, the question slipping from her lips like a fragile leaf carried on the wind. Suddenly, from a dense thicket, an enormous shape broke free, a shadowy figure, primal and wild, its eyes glimmering with a predatory hunger. It emerged, jaws snapping, revealing fangs that glinted under the waning light. The moment felt suspended in time, an electric pulse flowing through the ground between them. "Choose!" The shadows clamored again, their voice distorting into a chaotic chant. The walls around her seemed to swell, drawing her toward the crack, mirroring her internal conflict. Melanie fought against it. The pain in her chest intensified. "Lily! Georgia!" she called, desperately trying to break through the spell that held her loved ones captive. She couldn't see them, her heart clawing at the absence. But then she heard it, a soft whimper in the darkness, a muffled plea. "Mommy, help, please!" The haunting melody of her daughter's voices echoed just beyond the shadows, pulling her with an insatiable force. Her pulse quickened as she strained to focus, a flame flickering in her chest, illuminating the path momentarily. But the beast drew closer, stalking with sinister grace. Its growl deepened, vibrating through the air like a broken promise. It spoke without words, its presence a chilling warning that gnawed at the edges of her courage. "Run!" it seemed to whisper, shaking the very earth beneath her. Melanie's body reacted on instinct. She turned, racing back toward the light that pulsed behind her, but the shadows swirled, coiling around her legs like creeping tendrils, anchoring her in place. They shrieked, their voices rising in a haunting harmony, drowning out her thoughts once more. "Stay with us. Stay forever." Melanie's heart broke. Was this truly her family? Was she going to lose them, surrendering to this nightmarish world? She closed her eyes, clenching her fists and breathing through the fear that threatened to stall her. "No!" she screamed, her voice cracking with determination. "You're not real. You can't have me or my girls." But the shadows swallowed her words, their laughter turning cruel. The beast lunged, coming unexpectedly close, its rancid breath washing over her like a wave of darkness. There was palpable rage in its movement, a promise of anguish. It was hungry, the flickering light dimmed just slightly, the illusion of safety wavering. She felt that her resolve was a paper-thin wall against the onslaught. "Lily! Georgia! Hold on!" she called, fighting against the suffocating grip, her voice echoing in defiance. Just then, Melanie caught sight of something at the edge of her vision. A small glimmer, like a firefly flickering in the night. The light flickered closer. It was the promise of escape, the chance to seize her daughters from the clutches of the shadows. But the growl deepened again, the monstrous figure towering before her, ready to strike. A choice loomed, clearer yet more terrifying than ever. Would she leap into the unknown for a glimmer of hope, or face the nightmare that threatened to consume them all? Choose. The shadows screamed, the very ground beneath her trembling in anticipation. As she took a breath, steeling herself, she felt the heat rising. And then the light flickered brightly one more time, illuminating the path ahead. But would it lead her to salvation, or to a darkness more profound than she could imagine? Melanie's breath quickened, confusion clawing at her heart. The warmth of hope flickered brighter against the encroaching darkness, but the beast's growl sent chills racing down her spine. She could sense the primal intent emanating from it, as if it reveled in her fear, savoring the moment. Clenching her fists, she made her choice, bolting toward the glimmer. Swallowing her panic, she pushed through the shadows. Wisps of darkness tried to draw her back, clutching her like icy fingers, whispering promises of eternal belonging. "Stay, be one of us," it hissed, but she refused to listen. She would not become another story lost among these tortured souls. The light pulsed, growing fiercer, urging her onward. As she neared, the creature lunged, its fangs gleaming and eyes ablaze with wrath. Time felt distorted, every heartbeat stretched into an eternity. She could see it now. The glimmer was not just light, but a path, a chance to escape the nightmare. With a desperate surge of strength, she leaped past the shadow's grasp. The moment her foot hit the glinting ground, an explosion of warmth enveloped her. She was yanked into the light, and for a split second, she felt weightless, liberated from the encroaching dread. But that warmth faded as quickly as it had come, plunging her into a dark void. She fell into an abyss, the weight of despair crashing down around her. Panic clawed at her throat as she gasped for air. Would she ever get out? Would she ever be reunited with Lily and Georgia? "Mommy! Where are you?" The pleas echoed distantly, but they were twisted now, like whispers caught in a storm. "Melanie!" It was Georgia's voice, grounded and strong, yet distorted by the darkness. "Help us!" Melanie screamed. "I'm coming." I swear. The ground beneath her shifted, morphing violently as shadows sprang from the walls, morphing grotesquely. They swirled, creating a carnival of nightmarish faces, laughing and wailing in unison. She felt their eyes, so many looking at her with a single thought: devour. Just when she thought she would be consumed, Melanie found her footing, her resolve hardening. The bond with her daughters shone in her heart like a beacon, urging her to resist, pushing her to fight back. "No. You will not take us." Gritting her teeth, she focused on Georgia's voice, pulling from it a hidden strength. "Where are you? Mommy, help." It was a plea tinged with fear, reverberating in the darkness. Their cries fueled her fury. The shadows recoiled, sensing her refusal to submit. In that moment, she felt a spark surge within her. What if the light didn't just lead to escape? What if it could be a weapon against the darkness? Summoning every ounce of love and courage, she thrust her hands forward, channeling her will into the void. "Enough! You will not take my family." A blinding light erupted from her palms, illuminating the oppressive darkness. The shadows writhed and twisted, their laughter turning to shrieks of terror. Melanie stepped forward, hurling the light into the shadows like a flaming torch. They recoiled further, their forms dissipating into the ether, leaving behind echoes of anguish. She felt powerful, almost invincible, but then, it happened. The light flickered, revealing a horrifying expansion of what lay beyond, an endless wasteland filled with silhouettes of lost souls. An unearthly growl emerged from the depths, swelling in strength. Though she pulsed with the light of her own will, a heavy fear settled in her chest. Could she hold them back? Could she really save her daughters? The darkness began to coalesce again, angered but not defeated. Melanie's hands trembled, the shimmer of hope flickering. Would the light guide her to her girls, or was this merely the start of an even greater nightmare? Choose. The creature's chorus rumbled, blending with her daughter's fading pleas. Terror seized her heart anew. What lay beyond the darkness? The choice loomed, but would she dare to find out? The growl reverberated, deep and resonant, wrapping around her as a shroud of dread. Choose, it demanded again, a cacophony of voices blending into one sinister entity. Melanie fought back, her thoughts racing. What choice was there? Between dark and light? Between her freedom and the lives of her daughters? Mommy! Georgia's voice pierced through, sharper now, clawing at Melanie's resolve. Help us! Melanie's heart thudded painfully in her chest as the shadows curled closer, swirling with grotesque faces that leered and snarled. The darkness felt alive, drunk off fear, and her fight wavered for the briefest moment. Yet she knew if she surrendered, all would be lost. Not today. She shouted fiercely, gritting her teeth. She raised both hands, drawing on every memory of laughter, warmth, and love she shared with Lily and Georgia. In her mind, she visualized them smiling, safe, and together. That image ignited within her a resurgence of light, brighter than she had summoned before. The shadows screamed, retching back at her unbridled fury. With every ounce of energy, she hurled the light into the darkness, determined to carve a path through the malicious void. It shot forth like a comet, illuminating the horrific landscape of twisted spirits crying out for release, but as her hope flared, a chilling realization struck her: the shadows were not simply lingering, they were forming. From the depths of despair, shapes took shape, startlingly familiar shapes. A figure emerged, cloaked in darkness, its face obscured but its presence unmistakable. "Melanie," it cooed, a voice both haunting and tender. "I missed you." It was her sister, Claire. The last she remembered was Claire's laughter on a sunny afternoon, before everything changed. But this was not the Claire she cherished. This was the embodiment of sorrow, twisted and tainted. "Claire, is that you?" Melanie's voice trembled as emotions twisted inside her. "Come home," Claire beckoned, her eyes burning with an otherworldly glow. "You don't have to fight anymore. Join us. Embrace the darkness." The shadows rallied around her sister, pulsing with an alluring energy. Soft whispers surrounded Melanie, promising relief, acceptance, release from the terror. They hungered, ready to welcome her into their fold. "No!" Melanie shouted, feeling bile rise in her throat. The warmth of her love fought the icy tendrils wrapping around her heart. "You're not Claire. She wouldn't want this." "Give in, Melanie," Claire urged, her form shifting, momentarily beautiful and tragic. "This is your sanctuary. We can be together again." As the shadows pulled back, Melanie's vision warped, revealing shapes hidden moments before her daughters, trapped within the grasp of the encroaching darkness, eyes wide with fear. Ghostly hands reached out silently, pleading. "Mommy. No." The word tore from her throat, shattering the illusion. Determined, she pushed against the mounting dread surrounding her. "I want my family. I want my daughters. Choose." The creature roared again, its voice an avalanche of despair, ready to consume her soul. Terrified but resolute, Melanie knew then what she had to do. She dug deep, pulling the warm light from within, pushing against the suffocating shadows. But they wouldn't relent, they clawed back, relentless and hungry. "Your light can't extinguish our darkness," it cackled. "We are forever." In that instant, Melanie's heart sank. She was losing the battle. Would she really become just another echo in this hellish realm, a shadow among shadows? A panic clawed at her throat, but just as despair threatened to overwhelm her, a faint flicker of determination sparked within. If the darkness was growing stronger, maybe that meant that something was binding it, something anchored at its core. What was it? The question drove deep into her mind. Perhaps she wasn't just fighting for her family. Choose, the shadow warned once more, eerily calm now. Could she confront it? Could she uncover the truth beneath the terror? As the darkness converged once again, the choice loomed. One decision could lead to liberation or ruin, and in the oppressive silence, a new voice rose, soft yet firm, whispering through the darkness. "Mommy, please find us. Where were her girls?" Time was slipping, and she was running out of options. Would she face the creature to save them, or would the darkness claim her forever? Melanie's breath came in ragged gasps, each heartbeat echoing like thunder in her ears. Shadows pulsed around her, a grotesque dance of despair mocking her failures. "Mommy, please." The call of her daughters was a lifeline, yet the creature's grip tightened. It loomed, dark and monstrous, as if feeding off her fear, taunting her with each passing moment. "Find us," the whisper echoed, circling in her mind, mixing with her memories of laughter and joy. Heart racing, she shoved her hands against the dark, willing the light to pierce its heart. Yet it felt like fighting a hurricane barehanded. A jolt of pain shot through her as limbs of shadow snaked around her own, dragging her down. The shadows trembled, hungry for her surrender. You are too weak. It snarled, each word a venomous bite. You cannot save them, you only prolong the inevitable. But Melanie knew deep down that giving in meant losing everything. No. She shouted, flinging her memories outward like flares. The warmth of her daughter's laughter, their hugs wrapping around her like armor, surged forth. I will not abandon them. The darkness hissed, recoiling as beams of light sizzled through the void. For a fleeting moment, Melanie felt hope bloom within her. But as the light grew brighter, so did the shadows. They writhed in rage, transforming into twisted faces of anguish, their eyes hollow and filled with longing. Help us. Georgia's voice pierced the veil, raw and desperate. Melanie's heart shattered as she saw her daughters emerge briefly from the inky mass, their small frames flickering like dying stars. They needed her, and the very darkness that threatened to consume them was fed by her fear. Melanie Claire's familiar face emerged from the chaos again, but now, it twisted into a visage of anguish. If you fight, you'll lose us forever. Let the shadows take you, and you will find us. No. Melanie cried out, shaking her head fervently. She refused to believe it. Claire's voice was a siren to the void, but it was a lie. You're not my sister. You're just a part of this nightmare. The creature let out a guttural growl, the sound vibrating through the air, chilling her to the bone. Choose join us or watch them perish. A visceral terror clawed at her insides. Could she save her family without succumbing to the darkness? She felt her spirit strain against the pull, a tether to her daughters anchored in love. Georgia. Lily. Melanie shouted, summoning her girls' spirits. I'm coming. Hold on. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and summoned every ounce of light within, forcing it into a beam, piercing through the shadows like a sword. The shadows recoiled in fury, shrieking as light illuminated their grotesque forms, but the blackness was thick, and she could feel it clinging to her, invasive. A panic surged, but with it came a realization: fear was the enemy. Melanie shifted her focus, not just to herself but to the bond she shared with her daughters. If she could amplify that love, maybe it would be enough. Together. She roared, channeling all her energy and determination into her voice. We are stronger than this darkness. She felt a flicker of warmth, the connection they had, something deeper than this shadow realm, a spark that could ignite more than her own path. Suddenly, a rush burst through the shadows. Faces began to emerge, familiar but distorted by fear. Lily and Georgia appeared again, their hands reaching out for hers. Mommy! They cried, their voices harmonizing with a desperate urgency. Hold on to me! Melanie shouted, as her heart drummed in harmony with their calls, merging their strength with her light. As they united in purpose, the shadows shrank back, momentarily stunned. Would they break through? Would her daughters finally be freed? But just as hope surged, ominous laughter echoed, rumbling like thunderclouds. They are close yet so far. Make your choice, Melanie. Or lose them to the night. The fear and dread surged anew, and she found herself at a crossroads. Would she plunge deeper into that terrifying darkness to save them? Could she uncover what bound them to this realm? In that harrowing moment, a flicker of movement in the abyss caught her eye. Something sinister was shifting behind the veil. What lurked just beyond the edge of her consciousness, ready to shatter her fragile defenses? The air thickened, charged with anticipation. Melanie knew she had to choose, and time was running out. Melanie's heart thundered as she faced the abyss, every nerve alive with the fear of losing her daughters forever. The shadows whispered promises of joy intertwined with despair, their chorus growing louder, more menacing. Time was not on her side, and the palpable weight of dark temptation bore down on her like an iron shroud. Mommy, please. Georgia's voice reverberated through the void, genuine pain clear in every syllable. Help us. Melanie felt sheer desperation slice through her heart, as the shadows danced with anticipation. I won't abandon you. She cried, her voice raw and filled with fury. They couldn't be lost, there had to be a way through this. With every ounce of strength rooted in her love, she concentrated, determined to reach her daughters. "Remember the time we went camping at Miller Lake?" She shouted into the darkness, though doubt gnawed at her mind. "I promised I would always protect you." Memories surged, flares of warmth coursing through her veins, battling the ice of despair. "We're a family. We fight for each other." The shadows shrieked in response, a furious cacophony of anger that rattled the very air around her. "You cannot rely on the past. You will lose." They howled, twisting into grotesque shapes of her deepest fears. But as Melanie stood firm, another surge of love pulsed within her heart. "No. I will not give in," she roared defiantly. "I will not lose my family." Suddenly, light erupted from the depths of her very soul, shining brighter than she ever thought possible. With each heartbeat radiating that warmth, she felt it extending outward, mingling with the hope she now carried not just for herself but for her daughters. It erupted like a supernova, illuminating the shadows, scattering them like leaves in a storm. "Mommy!" The echo of Georgia's voice resonated through the light, clearer and more alive than ever. "Together!" Melanie shouted, reaching her hands towards the flickering silhouettes of her daughters, who soon materialized before her in glimmering outlines, adorned with a spectral glow. "Take my hand," she pleaded, beckoning them forward. Georgia and Lily ran toward her, the shadows hesitating momentarily, caught off guard by the radiant force Melanie had become. The figures grasped her hands, warmth flowing through them. With their bond forged anew, Melanie felt their united energy ignite, pulsing like a heartbeat turning against the tide of darkness. "Now!" Melanie commanded. "With love." As one, they pushed forward, thrusting their light into the writhing shadows. A blinding wave of power surged from their hearts, engulfing the darkness and scattering it like moths in the fire. The shadows screamed, the cacophony drowning in their violated sorrow. One last push sent the darkness reeling back, crashing into the depths from which it came. The forest shook violently, trees shuddering at the force of their expulsion. Wind whipped around them, howling like a wounded animal, and in that maelstrom, the boys' laughter faded, replaced by screams of rage. "You cannot escape, we will always be here." Then, silence. Melanie opened her eyes, and surrounding them was bright, warm sunlight pouring through the forest canopy. The oppressive shadows shrank away, dissolving into the air they no longer occupied. She gasped, overwhelmed her daughters at her sides, their eyes shining with life. Mom. Lily's voice trembled as she held on to her mother fiercely. "We were so scared." I know, Melanie whispered, the weight of fear slowly lifting. "But we did it. We fought together. You're safe now. We're safe." Hand in hand, they stood in a clearing, trembling yet whole. The Smoky Mountains were vibrant once more, sunlight filtering through the leaves, birds singing sweetly as if welcoming them back from a terrifying dream. The bond between them shimmered like nothing before, unbreakable and radiant. They began walking toward the cabin, every step healing the wounds that had threatened to tear them apart. "We're going home," Melanie said, her heart swelling with gratitude as she felt the warmth of both her girls beside her. As they reached the cabin, the oppressive presence lifted completely. The experience became a fading memory, a shadow of what had been overcome. Melanie caught her breath, relief washing over her. They had faced darkness and emerged victorious, and the bond they sharpened would only grow stronger, a fierce and unwavering love echoing deep within. They climbed into the car, smiles lighting their faces for the first time in ages, a shared understanding and newfound connection woven into the fabric of their hearts. Melanie turned the key, ready for new adventures far from those haunted woods, the figure of her lost sister fading away with the haunting memories. "Happy from now on," Melanie whispered as they drove away, the sun shining brightly ahead, lighting their path toward the future. "Now is the time for you to join the adventure as well." If you enjoyed this thrilling conclusion and want to hear more spine-chilling stories, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss out. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep the spooky stories coming. And don't forget to flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this chilling finale. Your thoughts matter and we want to hear them. Share this video with at least 5 friends who desperately need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to spread the word, show your support and keep the darkness at bay.